Welcome back to the Dynasty Arsenal podcast, episode 19. Today, I am Sammy Stacks, joined, as always, by my good friend and co-host, Tags. And Tags, it was an insane wildcard weekend. The story, I believe, for Dynasty purposes, was the Colston Loveland breakout / dominant game against the Packers. And people are sort of asking the question, is he now closer to Tyler Warren, or is he closer to that tier 1 Brock Bowers, Trey McBride?
I mean, he's got to be a top 5 tight end right now, right? Given his performance the entire second half of the year, plus stacking on this playoff production.
He's number 3 for me in my rankings right now. I think that, and I genuinely think that he's closer to the tier 1 guys than he is to Tyler Warren at this point. He's just unguardable. Like that game on Saturday night, you can't. The route running is just absolutely insane. You cannot guard this guy whatsoever, and he's tied to an alien quarterback. Ben Johnson is very clearly good at this head coaching thing. So I'm pumped about Colston Loveland going forward.
Yeah, I've got him like him and Warren are kind of just tied for me. Just from what I saw in the early part of the season with Warren, I feel like them losing Daniel Johnson's really derailed his production because they had to just toss out a lot of the intricacies of their offensive scheme and dumb it down a lot to get Rivers in there to be able to get him to start right away. So I probably give the edge to Warren just because I like his athleticism and his usage better. The fact that he's used all over the field. They give him handoffs in the red zone. I really like that from Warren. So that gives me the edge, but like Loveland's right behind him. He's probably my tight end 4.
Yeah, I mean, who knows what it's going to look like when Daniel Jones gets back? I mean, is he healthy to start the year? If when he does come back, is he as mobile as the offense is good? I think there's going to be a lot of questions going into 2026 with the Colts. But this week, as promised, we are doing a 2025 learnings episode, talking about things that we've learned in 2025, things we're taking away, trying to apply to our Dynasty leagues going forward. Before we get into that, we're going to try and see if we can do a little trade talk segment super quick at the top of every show where we bring a trade that we've made or an interesting trade that we've seen in one of our leagues to the show to start. And Tags, I made a trade this week.
Really quick before you get into that, I swear I have like podcast PTSD because you're like, before we get into that, and I was waiting for a sponsor segment. And
not yet, one day.
Not yet, one day. We should start making up our own sponsors just to give the people what they want.
Yeah, exactly. Or that make us seem desirable. Yeah. Because nobody's going to sponsor us if they don't see. Nobody wants to be the first one. This is good. But yeah, so I saw an opportunity here. I don't know if you guys seen, but I'm doing some solo Dynasty content on the Sammy Stacks YouTube channel. I did my wide receiver rankings video. And so I'm sort of looking at where the market values these guys. I saw that I'm a little higher on Jameson Williams than the public consensus. I saw him get thrown on the trade block.
I saw that deal you were making.
Yeah, so I threw him. I saw him get thrown up on the trade block in this league that I'm in. And the deal I made was I acquired Jameson Williams, the 207 and the 205. Yeah. 205, 207, Jameson Williams, and I sent away Trey Benson, Christian Watson, Kyle Williams, and the 210 or the 211, a late second. So I'm higher on Jameson Williams than the consensus. I think that the second half of the season is a lot closer to the truth for him. And Trey Benson, I think nothing is guaranteed there. It's going to be a new coaching staff. He obviously hasn't had an opportunity to truly show what he's capable of because as soon as James Conner got injured, he follows suit, gets hurt. So he's got 2 years left on the rookie deal. But my
Yeah.
confidence is not huge in what he's going to be able to do.
And at this point, you have to factor injuries into Benson's value because it keeps happening.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And
So,
Christian
so does this
Watson,
mean you're not buying the Watson hype?
it's not that I'm not buying it. I think it's fine. Keep trade cut is sky high on Christian Watson. He's in like the early 30s, I think. I saw he was like wide receiver 33. I have him as like my wide receiver 50.
That's surprising.
He's a lot older than you'd think. He's deceptively old, as we like to say.
I mean, he was an old prospect.
Yeah, so he does have the extension there, but he's like, I don't know, he's like Jamison Williams, but he's hurt all the time. You know, it's like you're kind of relying on the big play. The offense really isn't as productive in terms of the passing volume. I just love Jamison Williams as a buy right now, and so I was really happy to make that deal. This wide receiver room that I have in this league is just absolutely bonkers. And Jamison Williams is probably my wide receiver 6. Just the way that this has the way that this has worked out here. So, yeah.
What is his contract status?
JMO?
Yeah, because his contract has to be.
He signed an extension.
He signed the extension.
Yeah,
I forgot about
right
that.
before the season started. 3 years, $80 million.
That's right. It was such a random extension when it came in.
And this year was the last year of his rookie deal, where it was his 5th-year option. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, let me look, because he was a first rounder. No, this was year 4. So he has the 5th-year option next year, and then the 3-year extension. Right?
So I'm seeing that he's locked in until 2029.
Dude,
That's wild.
huge.
See, I like JMO more for best ball. I love him in best ball, but I have such a hard time. Like, I have a few teams with him in Dynasty, and sometimes I just don't know what to do with him. Like, do I start him? Seems like every time I start him, he goes for 2 points. 3
You kind of
points.
got. I think you just got to ride the wave.
And then whenever I bench him, he goes for 20.
Well, look.
So I just would rather get rid of him than have to deal with that headache every week.
Absolutely, and I think that sort of plays into why I like him as a target right now. Over the back half of the year, these are his totals: 16, 24, 21, 0. Complete goose against the Giants in week 12. Then 27, 17, 26, 12, 5, 13. Every single player you roster is going to have bad games, right? Even Amon-Ra had a few down weeks. Like I think Jameson is continuing to improve. 1,100 yards and 7 touchdowns this year. I like the big play upside, especially if you can scatter some good floors around your lineup. I just think it's inherently valuable, and so I like that as a target. But I completely get the being worried about the volatility there.
Sounds like we need to make a deal.
Sure.
I bet I have JMO in a few leagues that you don't.
I'm interested.
All right. Well, next week we'll be breaking down our deal that we make.
You know what I think people... I could be wrong. I think people would love to hear just a negotiation on the podcast.
On the podcast? Right
that would be
now.
fun.
What do you got for me?
That would be fun. We'd have to be quick, and we could maybe like cut it if there's a bunch of like fluff in there. But
yeah.
But we can get right into our learnings here.
I think it's important to kind of... I do this every year. Like, after the season, I'm like, okay, what could I have done better this year? What did I learn not to do next year? And I kind of try to build on season after season, because in Dynasty, it's a long-term game. And as long as you're getting a little bit better every year, a little bit smarter with your decisions, taking lessons from maybe things you probably shouldn't have done, shouldn't have made this trade for this player in this situation, then I feel like that's the point, is getting a little bit better every year. And that just goes for life too, you know? We're all just trying to take some life lessons from Dynasty and get a little bit better every year.
It's all about self-improvement, right? Looking at the man in the mirror and just being straight with them. Yeah, and also the NFL is constantly changing, and the fantasy landscape is constantly changing, and we need to adapt to it. And so these could also be things that we're learning based on changes that are happening to the league and to the Dynasty landscape. I can take the first one here. My first one here. This is going to be relevant pretty quickly. because it's all about rookies. And it's my learning is that I need to take absolutely everything into account when valuing prospects. I can sometimes have a tendency to really get into like one statistic that I think is really valuable, or like one data set that I think is really pertinent to how a rookie is going to perform at the next level. And then I sort of just use that to extrapolate into like trying to predict or project what's going to happen. Using like 80% of my evaluation is this one thing. Last offseason, what it was for me is I got really bogged down into historical hit rates of different positions being taken in different rounds. So basically, it was actually Zach at Fantasyland who put together this like huge data set. He did all this research where it spit out this percentage of how many second round picks at wide receiver have a wide receiver 1 season in their first like 4 years. How many have a wide receiver 2 season in their first 4 years. Now, I think this is a great piece of the evaluation puzzle. So you know when you're looking at a 5th round running back, okay, how often is this pick hit? But this one stat can't be everything, and it was probably like 75% of my of what I took into evaluating these prospects, because I'm not a guy who watches film. I'm not like I don't end up having these large sweeping opinions on players based on how they look on the field, right? Or how good of an athlete they are, this kind of thing. But you need to take all that into account. This is mainly what caused me to fade Jackson Dart, because the hit rate on first round quarterbacks that aren't drafted in the top 15 is really bad. It's not good at all. I talked about this a little bit last week. It's like Lamar Jackson and everybody else sucks. I faded Cam Scatterbo because day 3 running backs don't really have great hit rates. But in that case, there's so much more context to be taken into account here. Scatterbo was a really good prospect in every facet outside of his like just raw athleticism. And we could see that the enormous strength of the 2025 draft was the running back position. And so guys got pushed down the board, taken later, that probably should have gone earlier. So things like that. I also grouped Luther Burden in with the rest of the second round wide receivers a little bit. I had those probably definitely closer than I should have. He was universally thought of as a better prospect, and he was drafted as into what could have been thought of at the time as a potentially phenomenal situation. So the lesson I'm taking here is that I need to be more open to my biases being wrong. I need to be more open to the fact that, okay, this one stat may not be everything this year. And so if you watch film on rookies, I know Tags that you've done that in the past, that's great. I would say don't base your entire opinion off of just that film. If you are somebody who really cares about statistics in terms of like breakout age and their college production, make sure you're also looking at other things beyond just that. That's the lesson that I've sort of learned here.
Yeah, and I think so. I took Dart everywhere in drafts because he was going to the late first area. Seemed like every time, if I had the 111, he was just there, and it always came down to like, well, do I want a first round quarterback that has rushing upside, or do I want Caleb Johnson? And thankfully, I decided to go the Dart route there instead of the Caleb Johnson route in most of my drafts. I think to that point, I think you're not wrong. I think later first round quarterbacks do have not a great hit rate, but that's also for the NFL as a whole. If they have rushing upside, I'm scooping them up. Doesn't matter if they're the 32nd pick, 31st pick. It means a team trusts them enough to give them the 5th year option. And if they have rushing upside, if you're a first round pick, generally you're going to start at some point in your career as a quarterback, just so teams can see what they have. And if you have rushing upside, it's going to create guaranteed selling windows, because rushing upside gives the quarterback a floor, and that floor creates a selling window. So even guys like Justin Fields, we've seen what Justin Fields is. And he's not that great of a quarterback, but if he starts at any point next year, he's going to be worth something just because of his rushing upside. So I personally took Dart everywhere just because I knew the rushing upside is going to create a selling window no matter what. But if there's a, like, say, if there's a pocket guy, say John Mateer comes out in the draft and he's a 30th pick, I'm probably not taking him because he doesn't have the rushing upside.
Yeah,
So
and that's exactly what my point is about taking everything into account, right? So the Jackson Dart thing, okay, yeah, the hit rate on these late first drafted quarterbacks where it's like the team is only taking him in the first round to get that fifth year option in case he's good.
Yeah.
Most people did not think Jackson Dart should be a first round pick, right? So
How dare you?
but because of the rushing upside, that changes the math. And now all of a sudden, like you just outlined, there's going to be a selling window and the upside is just a lot higher. And we saw that upside take effect in his rookie year. So that's something that I did not take into account enough in his profile. And it caused me to push him down my board. And I don't think I drafted a single share of Jackson Dart in rookie drafts. Now I have a few because I traded for him during the season.
Yeah.
But basically,
you had to be quick because now it's like, well, he's the guaranteed quarterback in New York. There's no shot he gets benched, and we've seen what he can be when he's on it, and that's without any weapons. So
I'm excited. Yeah,
you kind of do have to move quick on these guys, and once you see it hit, you kind of have to jump on it. But it's I don't think you're wrong with that assessment. I think tweaking it to factor in the rushing upside is the main difference there.
Yeah, exactly. And it takes everything, right? Like a guy like Ty Simpson, right? Just declared for the draft. People don't think he should be a first round pick. What if the Rams take him and Stafford's going to be there for another year? And you know that when Stafford retires, Ty Simpson is going to take over. That's a very attractive situation, even though there's no rushing upside. So there's so many things to take into account with all this stuff. My main point is take everything into account.
I like it.
What's your first learning?
My first point is that coaching changes. So we had a pretty wild offseason where elite offensive-minded coaches were moving places. Most notably, Ben Johnson moving from the Lions to the Bears, and then Liam Cohen moving from the Bucks to the Jaguars. So we're going to take a little trip back in time to see how that played out this year. So going back to 2024, we're looking at the Bears. The Bears have the last overall offense in yards per game last season. They were 28th in points scored. And on the flip side, Lions were the second overall offense in yards per game and first in points scored by a whopping 39 points over the second place highest scoring team. So we take both of those coaches, we swap them, and this year, the Bears offense is 6th overall in yards per game and 9th overall in points scored. And then looking at the Lions, they dropped to 5th in yards per game, which is not bad, but it is a clear drop from the production they had before. Mm-hmm. And most notably, they dropped from scoring 564 points last year to only scoring 481 this year. So an 83-point difference in touchdowns and points scored, which is a huge regression compared to what they did last year. And then flipping to the Liam Cohen side, the Jaguars offense last year was 25th overall in yards per game, 26th overall in points scored per game. And the Bucks offense was 3rd overall offense last year in yards per game, 4th overall in points per game. Looking to 2025, the Jaguars moved up to the 11th overall in yards per game and 6th overall in points scored per game. Looking at the Bucks this year, they dropped from 3rd overall to 21st in yards per game, and they dropped from 4th overall in points scored to 18th. So that's a huge drop and a huge flip in production. And my biggest thing that kind of backed up this point was that none of these teams changed quarterbacks, which is the biggest factor that could change for an offense. Almost all these teams stayed the same compared to last year. If anything, the Lions added some talent. The Jaguars added a bit of talent. The Bucks added talent. There's no key pieces that left any of these teams. The biggest thing that changed was their offensive coordinator. So I'm kind of keeping note of that as we go into the coaching carousel that we're in right now. It's peak coaching change season. And there's a lot of offensive talented coaches that are free agents right now and a lot of teams that need a head coach. Most notably, Greg Roman just got fired today.
Yeah.
Mike McDaniel is available. Brian Dable, Matt Nagy. Teams losing coaches: the Ravens, Falcons, Dolphins, Giants, Raiders, Titans, Jets, and list will probably continue, and Browns, and list will probably continue to grow as we get into this offseason. And that's a lot of star-studded offensive talent that has a change in head coach and offensive coach heading into next year. So I'm looking at this and am going to be trying to find either windows to sell. I'm probably selling Lamar Jackson everywhere. Just a heads up.
Wow.
Same with Dolphins. Dolphins and Falcons, I feel nervous about. But I'm going to be watching these head coaches changes because we saw last year how big of a difference it makes when elite-minded head coach, offensive-minded head coaches change teams.
Yeah, I think it's okay. Yeah, I think it obviously we saw there's a direct correlation there, right? Like the Lions drop off a little bit, the Bears get a huge bump. The Bucks drop off, the Jags get a huge bump. I'm wondering what can we specifically take from those situations to then project forward? Because also Liam Cohen at one point came into the Bucks as an offensive coordinator after they just lost Dave Canales to a head coaching job, and then the Bucks were great. So is it only the super hotshot OCs that we're going to apply this to, right? Where Ben Johnson was the belle of the ball. Liam Cohen was thought of as a very bright offensive mind when he went to Jacksonville. I'm wondering, like, when are we going to know beforehand? What sort of qualities are going to have us be sure that, okay, this guy is going to change this offense that he's going to, and the offense that he's in is probably going to take a step back?
I think previous success matters because Cohen obviously found the success with the Bucks, and Ben Johnson was like the mastermind lauded coach this last offseason. So I'm looking at guys like Mike McDaniel is going to be, and same with Brian Dable, who developed Josh Allen and partially Dart.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you about, because he was obviously great.
Yeah, those are the guys where as soon as they move to that team, I'm going to be circling all the guys on that team as trade targets.
With Brian Daboll, did he not do sort of the opposite of what we wanted? Because he was really good with the Bills, which is great. Same way Ben Johnson was great with the Lions, and Liam Cohen was great with the Bucks. Then he goes to the Giants, and we didn't really get any fantasy production out of the Giants. Daniel Jones.
I like it better if they're just offensive coordinators.
But the two guys that you just mentioned became head coaches.
Yeah.
So is it okay? So it's just the fact, it doesn't matter that they're the head coach. It's the fact that they're a bright offensive mind.
Yeah, I think it can go either way. In my example, they obviously went from offensive coordinators to head coaches. But I think we can see the flip change where I think Mike McDaniel is a better offensive coordinator than he is a head coach.
Probably, yeah. Yeah.
Same with Josh McDaniels with the Patriots. He's kind of the perfect example. The Patriots offense exploded this year and was top 5 in almost every single metric. And Josh Daniel never could do that as a head coach somewhere else.
No, he was terrible.
So I'm like, I would rather see them as an offensive coordinator. But if we see any of those elite offensive coordinator minds kind of emerge and get a lot of traction for offensive minded teams, then I think that's something to note. I'm curious. It's kind of just putting a pin in this because it's like year one of an experiment. Yeah. This is like my test group. And now next year, as we look back onto the coach changes this offseason and how I can compare the changes in offense for those teams that get a new coach this year. It
I
may be
think,
like a multi-year experiment for me, but
yeah,
it's something
absolutely.
to note that kind of stuck out for me this year.
Yeah, I think the learning is pay more attention to this, right? Whether or not we have any strong takeaways right now, because the other thing I was going to mention to you, how do we find the Chip Kelly? How do we find the guy who is coming off of a, national championship run with Ohio State where the offense was unbelievable. So much talent there, but it was really, really good. And then he comes to the Raiders where there seems to be a lot of potential. Geno Smith was really good with the Seahawks. You have a first round running back. You have Brock Bowers. You have Jacoby Myers, who's been very solid. You have an offensive line, which the year previous was quite good, and they regressed a ton. So I think this is absolutely something that we should be talking about more because there are wins to find here. I think it's just going to be a thing of seeing what are the trends of which of these hotshot offensive minds improve the teams they're going to and which ones sort of don't.
Yeah. Well, it'll be exciting to touch base on this next year and see if we can start kind of seeing a trend form and kind of be able to base some analysis on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think maybe it would be fruitful for us to do an episode sometime in the next month or two once all of the head coach and offensive coordinator openings have been filled and sort of look at it like which ones do we like, which ones do we not like, who could be the Jags of this next year, right? So my second learning here is I just called this one I'm not a genius. I need to leave more room for error when making strong stances. I already mentioned Jackson Dart. I thought that he sucked. I thought he was bad. I didn't think he was a good quarterback. A lot of the people that I trust that watch film, draft analysts, didn't really think of this guy as a first round pick. He wasn't ready. It was a gimmicky offense at Ole Miss. I talked about the historical hit rate, all that stuff. This was a big misstep on my part. And the other one was Justin Fields, which is very sad to talk about. And I don't think that this one is a huge mistake because he wasn't at any point super expensive, right? But I told myself there was no way he was going to get benched for Tyrod Taylor. Old, injured Tyrod Taylor after the Jets gave Fields a $40 million contract. I said, there's no way. It's impossible. He is not going to get benched. This is not Russell Wilson in Pittsburgh. This is Tyrod Taylor. And I was just wrong. And I literally left no room for me to be wrong about that. I bought him in so many places as a rotational quarterback 2, quarterback 3. And then the second half of the season, he was 0. So leaving more, I can have a strong stance. I just need to leave room that I could potentially be wrong because, like the title of this is, I am not a genius. So,
see, my Fields is QJ. Same with QJ. Like, this year was, I feel like this year in particular was an odd one where there's a lot of players that just like spiked and then were the greatest thing in the world for 4 to 5 weeks and then just vanished. QJ is probably the biggest one because for most of this year, you look at his stats and it's like, oh, he's like he's like wide receiver 7 overall.
He's back. Yeah, exactly.
And I had offers for like a first for him. And I'm like, I don't know. I think he's figured it out. And then he vanishes, and now it's like, well, he's back to like that mid-second range if you want him. So
yeah, we'll get back. One of the ones that I want to talk about is trying not to get sort of not misled, but be careful with small samples, especially at the beginning of the season. It's so tough. If you go back to like some of our pods from week 5, 6, 7, I mean, we can transition into this right now, honestly. Tags. Emeka Egbuka is a similar one, right? Absolutely exploded out of the gate. And the other one, Rome Odunze. These guys, I looked at Keep Trade Cut, the history. They were valued as high as wide receiver 8 and wide receiver 9 dynasty overall during their breakouts, which were like the first 5 or 6 weeks. We had a conversation on this pod, Keep Trade Cut, Egbuka, Neighbors, Adunze. And you wouldn't even consider that conversation now, right?
It's so tough with that example in particular because all three wide receivers had first round draft capital.
Yeah.
And same with QJ. It's like, well, is this the JSN breakout? JSN didn't do a whole lot until his third year. So there's always that example like, well, I've held on to him this long. I don't want to move him because he could be JSN.
Yeah.
So those players are so hard to figure out what to do with because they have the draft capital. You know, they're going to be studs in that offense or focal points in that offense. So it's like, what do you do with them?
I do have a take
Dunze,
here.
I don't want to move a Dunze. I loved him in that draft.
Yeah. My take here is that, look, both Egbuka and Adunze had 5 touchdowns through 5 weeks. Obviously, that's not sustainable. And 5 weeks is just never enough of a sample to fully evaluate any asset in any circumstance. And for Rome, it might as well have been a rookie year for him because he has this completely new, and I'll mention it again, difficult to learn offense. Everybody talks about the Ben Johnson offense as being difficult to learn. So it's basically a rookie year for Rome. So was there truly a scenario in week 6 where these guys by the end of the year enter the top 5 of dynasty wide receivers? Potentially. I just don't know if that bet is ever worth it over just waiting for a larger sample. Because you could have sent Neighbors for Egbuka in week 6 and, tweak the pieces on either side, but they were relatively similar in value. And now you're like, God, why on earth did I do that? What was the potential for Egbuka? To get to half a round ahead of Neighbors, a round ahead of Neighbors. You know what I mean? So I'm thinking just with these guys where we don't know what they are coming into the year, I'm 100% going to be way more cautious making any sort of stance on what their value is from a 5 or 6 game sample size.
I think we may be onto something there because QJ for the first 4 weeks of the season had 4 touchdowns. He had a 2 touchdown game, 1 touchdown, no touchdown, 1 touchdown. So that might be the main key to know when to sell these guys is if whatever percentage of their points scored is based on touchdowns. Because we've said this a million times, touchdowns are so volatile. They're hard to predict. They're not really a stat you want to rely on with a player. And that might be the key to kind of identifying these breakout players and if it's legit or not. Because if I looked at QJ and was like 4 touchdowns in 4 games, he's not going to score 17 touchdowns this year. So his production is only going to drop. I think that might be something we need to take note of in a way of identifying if these breakouts are legit or not.
Well, but here's and look, I'm going to have to argue with us for a second because George Pickens, similar in the sense that we don't really know what this guy is coming into 2025. George Pickens has 6 touchdowns in his first 6 games. People are going nuts, right? Then over the last 10 weeks, 3 touchdowns. And he was still awesome. So how do we, and I don't expect you to have an answer for this because I definitely don't have one. How do we differentiate that? Because the Bucks were supposed to be a great offense. The Bears were supposed to be a great offense, and they were. The Bucks obviously fell off a little bit. But the Cowboys were supposed to be this great offense, and Pickens kept producing, Roman and Egbuka didn't. So what is, maybe it's just who cares? We don't know. We're never going to know. This game's impossible.
We're about to have so much free season, off season time to just sit and stew over random dynasty tidbits.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's one of those we're just going to have a brain blast at 4 a.m. and I'll be like, I got to text Sammy. I figured it out. I figured out the formula.
Because it's all similar situations, right? Like a good amount of passing volume. There are other targets in the offense. Like George Pickens is not the one in Dallas.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the answer is. Maybe we'll look into it more. And looking back, obviously Ibuka had the issues with the catchable target rate, which I talked about when we did his grade. Like Baker just wasn't on it. But then I also have Jamison Williams written down here. He fell all the way to wide receiver 33 during the first half of the season, like on Keep Trade Cut, when he was doing absolutely nothing. But we know that the offense values him. He had his breakout in 2024 with 1,000 yards. He gets the contract extension like we just talked about. And so how do we find the guys who we think are going to bounce back right after a slow, like what is the common denominator here between these guys that changed so much during the season? And is the answer to just try to not make as many moves? Because obviously as Ibuka and Rome are shooting up, you always want to catch it, right? There's always this huge rush to buy a guy while he's on the up, or to sell a guy while his value is tanking, right? How many people were like, God, Jamison Williams is having another terrible first half of the season. I got to get out now, right? And I think my take might be, even if you miss out on a huge riser like Malik Neighbors as a rookie, or Jaden Daniels as a rookie, I think that potentially overall there will be more retrospective overpays for these types of players than there will be fair value deals. And waiting the majority of the season to see where they settle out will be beneficial overall for long-term value building.
Yeah, I think my philosophy going forward is that if they're a second or third year player that hasn't shown consistently that they can keep up this production, and they're having a hot 4 to 5 weeks in a row, I just need to sell them. You're going to cash out at a profit, which is always a plus. And I'm curious, like, how many third-year wide receivers break out like JSN did? The percentage has to be so low.
Well, JSN had a good year too. It wasn't anything insane. This year, obviously, he went absolutely nuclear.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like Devontae Adams, Nico Collins, Michael Wilson. And how much, like, how do you know if it's true or not? Right? Because Michael Wilson is going to be a talking point this offseason. Yeah. I'm pretty high on him.
But he's also a scary buy.
He is a very scary buy, because the Jacoby Brissett, I think, over Michael Wilson's like insane stretch, Jacoby Brissett paced for like 700 pass attempts.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's not sustainable. But Kyler couldn't get Trey McBride to do much of anything. And then all of a sudden, Kyler's gone, and Michael Wilson and Trey McBride are great. So I think that, but with the third-year breakout thing, yeah, I don't know. More often than not, is it just a flash in the pan? Maybe. But maybe it's just, I need to see more of a sample, right? Maybe you give yourself a timeline of like 8 weeks. And people were still relatively high on QJ after 8 weeks, given what he did over the first 5, right? So I don't know. I think my thing is going to be like, if these guys are shooting up in value, I'm going to try and just, hopefully I have some shares. I'm not going to buy in at what potentially could be max value, right? I'm going to try and sort of chill out a little bit and just
what's going to happen. What's going to happen is that Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to start off next year.
First year 5 games, isn't it? Oh my god.
5 games just dropping heaters, and we're just going to be like, oh no, do I stick with my philosophy? Do I sell them now? Do I buy them? This is my worst case scenario.
Marvin Harrison is going to add 25 years to your life next season. Tags has always been a big believer in Marv, and this offseason he's giving up.
I've successfully given up, which means he's going to have an incredible year next year. But I just know he's going to start off the year going for like being as like the wide receiver 3 overall for the first 5 weeks, and I'm just going to be like in fetal position, just like not knowing what to do with them. Do I sell them? Do I buy them? What do I do?
So we need to remember this. We need to come back to it week 6 next year and just talk about, okay, who's flying up boards because they have 5 touchdowns in 5 weeks?
Yeah.
Right? Do you have what's your next one? Do you have another
Yeah,
one?
my next one is one that you kind of also have in a way. Mine is knowing when to tank and the value of having your own first. Having your own first gives you so much flexibility with your team build. And the biggest thing I learned is I am never tanking if I don't have my own first because you just need to get to the playoffs. That's something I've learned. I build every team, and kind of similar to the way the NFL works. The NFL, most teams build their teams to win their division and get them in the playoffs. And once that happens, it's just a crapshoot. So my whole philosophy is getting to the playoffs is a skill. Winning the playoffs is luck. Because I mean, even this year, weird stuff happens in the playoffs. Like you could have Pitt scoring 51 points in the first round of the playoffs.
Tags.
You could get to this, as you know.
As I know, but Tags, I got to stop you. Mike Tomlin just got fired.
Did he really? We need a breaking news.
News. Mike Tomlin. Mike
that
Tomlin
mean?
stepping per Schefter. Mike Tomlin stepping down as Steelers head coach. That's the
Not
language. Stepping
technically
down.
fired. He says, I'm tired of this, Grandpa.
Wow. I don't know if there's any. This probably means Rodgers is completely done, right?
Yeah,
there's
so
no way.
we need a sidebar. There's no way. See, I was before this news, I was pretty certain Rodgers was coming back next year.
Me too. That game last night was so brutal, though. Like,
Yeah, dude.
He
Did you see when he threw it to DK? DK dropped it, and Rodgers' face was just like,
that's why you pay him $30 million a year, by the way. DK Metcalf to
give him a
punch fans.
give him a 5-year contract for 30
Dude.
mil to punch fans, get
Punch fans
suspended,
and drop. Yeah. Right in his hands. Nobody on him.
So
But
Rodgers,
Mike Tomlin, wow. Caleb Johnson might have a shot, man. I don't know.
he's the God, the so you're saying there's a chance.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
what are the shot you see us together 1 in 1 million? He's like, yes. That's Caleb Johnson owners right now. That's wild.
Mike
So
Tomlin,
do
wow.
we think Rodgers is done then? Do you think he's
Here's the thing. If he's not, he's going to like try and pick his head coach. And I hate that. It didn't
Yeah.
work. It didn't work with the Jets because he was like, I just want this to
want
be
my boys.
the Aaron Rodgers team,
Yeah.
right? I want Alan Lazard and I want McCole Hardman and I want, and it just didn't. Nathaniel Hackett, right? That was a disaster. And then he gets to the Steelers and it's like, hey, no, this is Mike Tomlin. He runs this. You're not running it. And it went pretty well. Like as well as it can go if you're, 40,
Also-
whatever year old Aaron Rodgers.
that Steelers team is a shit show. If they lose Rodgers, they don't have a quarterback.
Well, Tags, they're finally going to be bad enough to pick one. Because Mike Tomlin just sets this insane floor where he's 500
Ty
every year.
Simpson, welcome to Pittsburgh.
Well, it's going to be 2027, right? Like
Yeah.
this team with Kyler. Kyler was such like a Mike Tomlin type of guy to get. I think I don't know what they're going to do now. It fully depends on who the head coach is, obviously. But yeah, we'll have plenty of time to talk about that. You can get back into your
Anyways,
Kyle Pitts.
a little
The
breaking
playoffs are
news
left.
segment there. You heard it from us first, I'm sure.
I'm glad we caught that.
Yeah. And then the second round, Puka's scoring 53 points. Chris Olave scoring 36 points in the second round. I was a victim of the 2022 Alvin Kamara game where he scored 6 touchdowns, 58 total points. The playoffs are just weird, man. Like crazy stuff happens once you get to the playoffs. So I'm focusing on stacking value on my teams and building the best team possible and trying to improve on it every year. I kind of go against the philosophy that a lot of other dynasty podcasts say, where they're like, if you're a contender, you need to go all in. You need to push all your chips in, push for this year, win a ship. It's not that easy. You can't just be like, yeah, I bought Devontae Adams, so now I'm going to win. Like crazy stuff happens. So there's been a lot of times where I've pushed my chips all in and I get knocked out of the first round by a freak playoff performance.
Kyle Pitts. Like, yeah,
Kyle Pitts,
you
exactly.
can't. Doesn't matter what you do. If you come up against that kind of performance, it's just, yeah, you're just toast.
You just have to take it. So if I'm a team that's a borderline playoff team, the first thing I'm doing, if I want to tank, the first person you need to hit up is the person who has your first. Hit them up first. Try to get your first back. If I cannot get my first back, I'm just going to push. Like there was a year, this year in particular, I had 2 teams that were 6-8 make the playoffs. And one of them got knocked out first round. The other one got second place. And you know what? Second place cashes. That's money. And I wasn't even supposed to be there. But that team, I tried so hard to sell. The guy who had my first would not give it up. So I'm like, well, I might as well just push, see what happens in the playoffs, see if I can string together a few like freak weeks and see if I can get some money. And it got second place. So if you don't have your first, just don't tank. It doesn't feel good. It feels awful to have a bad team and then see a contending team get the 101 because you tanked.
Look, Tegs, I think the sentiment with a lot of people with this type of thing is like, you need to choose a direction. Are you blowing it up and trying to get the best pick possible? Which obviously, if you don't have your first, is a separate conversation. But if you're going to get into the playoffs, you have to know if this team has a chance. And you know what? All 6 teams in the playoffs have a chance. Every team in the playoffs has a shot. Michael Wilson is not a valuable asset during the season. He was great. Kyle Pitts, Trevor Lawrence, right? Brock Purdy. These are not guys who were huge all year. They go nuclear in the playoffs. They win people leagues. So I think you're absolutely right. Where if you don't have your first, just get in, just try and get in. Even if you don't think your team has a great shot, just try and get in. And I do think that trying to acquire your first is a good way to go about it. But a lot of the time, like you said, that manager has all of the leverage.
They have all the negotiating power because
and
they know if you're trying to get your first back, that you're trying to make your pick worse. And
the second it's traded, it increases in value.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's like, well, we know you're tanking. So a lot of times you are just going to be stuck in the situation where it's like, well, I don't have my first. I just have to get to the playoffs this year, see what happens, and then make the decision for next year. I'm more of the fact where you need to be realistic with your team and know kind of where you stand in your league. So valuable tools to be able to find that is Dynasty Daddy's great. I use it all the time. You can go on there, put in your username, and then it pops up all your leagues, and it shows kind of the strengths of all the teams in your league and kind of where you roughly stand amongst your teams. I use that all the time, and there'll be times where it's like the very, very beginning of the year, oh, I'm like the 9th best team in contender.
In contender mode, yeah.
Then I probably shouldn't be trying to contend this year. The faster you can make the decision of am I tanking or am I pushing, the more value you can get out of that.
Yeah, 100%.
Because if you make that decision in week 10, odds are your max points are probably too far away to be able to drop enough points to get down to the 101, 102 range. So by week 3 or 4, that's usually my cutoff where it's like, all right, does this team have it or do they not? I need to start making moves here if they don't. And I use a lot of tools like that throughout the year to kind of figure out where I stand in my leagues. And also you can use those to pinpoint what teams have needs in what position. If a team is ranked 11th in running backs, that's like, cool, I need to move my running backs to that team because they have the most desire for that position. So using tools like that throughout the year is really helpful. And just make a decision quickly what you want to do. Have a clear outline for your teams. Like it's like career planning. Have like a 2-year plan. What's your plan for your career? Where you're going and how do you get there? some teams, the earlier you can make that decision of when you want to tank or buy, the more value you can get.
Yeah, absolutely. Knowing the direction of your team is so important to not just be in this limbo of I don't know if I should blow it up or if I should go for it. And one of my main points that I wrote down, which is half of what you were talking about, is just the enormous value of having your own pick. Now, I also think this is really applicable right now as people are doing dynasty startups. Because in a startup, most of these first round picks probably get traded within like the first 8 rounds, right? Because that's where all the valuable picks are. This is long before you have a full scope of what your team is going to look like. Also, in dynasty startups, from my experience, and I think Tags will agree, it's often an arms race, right? And everybody's trying to offload those picks. Like 75% of the league wants to contend right away. And then there's like 2, maybe 3 teams that decide to go with a struggle build. So the second you trade your first for, let's say this will be 2027, the second you trade that pick, you have now put yourself in a position where you have to contend. And in a startup, that could mean potentially losing out on value in the draft because your team is completely pigeonholed into 2026 production. I often find this time of year, like when we're like a few months out from the rookie drafts, rookie picks are the best value in startups. They always go later than they should because everybody wants the instant production. If you trade your 2027 first, you can't take 5 rookies, right? Sure, you can say, okay, I'll trade them, but are you going to be able to? Right? So just pigeonholing yourself into one team build is not the thing to do immediately, right? When I like to trade my first is in week 9 or 10 when my team is looking really good and then I have a season-ending injury and I need to fill a hole, right? I don't want to trade my first unless I'm on a team that I am 100% certain is making the playoffs. And then I'm okay with it. And like Teg said, it's a game of luck. I think we're a little bit different there, where I'm fine risking my first on that luck. I think I'm okay with that. Even if I'm the 3 seed and I trade my first in week 12 and then I get bounced by Kyle Pitts in the first round, okay, that's life. You know what I mean? If I gave up the 108 or the 107, I'd not really bother with that. I want to try and win all the time. But I just don't want to do it before that point. I don't want to do it before I know that I'm a playoff team unless I have like this insanely juggernaut build, right? And I think that's going to be especially true for 2027 because people talked about the 2027 draft being great and the 2026 one not being great. We've said that I think that that's a silly way to value picks. It's looking a little bit true.
The thing is that like people were also saying that for the 2025 class.
They were
like 2024 class is fire. 2025 class, there's nothing. It's going to be not a good class, and turned out pretty solid. So,
like, well, Cam Ward came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Genty really like had an insane junior season. He wasn't supposed to be that good. So much can change, right, in a year. There's the problem this year is that there's so many guys going back.
I think my thing with trading as a contender and pushing is that I need to get whatever player I'm acquiring, they need to not lose value for 2 years.
Yes. Yeah.
Because you're giving up a year of assets, so you need to have that year covered. So I'm not trading a first for Javonte Williams because I don't know if he is going to have his contract is going to. If he's going to be re-signing with the Cowboys. If he re-signs with the Cowboys, then it's probably worth it. But there's too many question marks there. Mm-hmm. I need safety if I'm trading a first, no matter where I'm at as a team. So if I'm trading a first, I need at least 2 years of production before they drop value, because I can easily get the production for the playoffs this year and then flip them next year and basically make them a rental. Like, you can try to get your draft capital back that you spent into them. So there's a very specific, I guess, kind of player I'm trying to trade that for if I'm pushing. I'm not trading it for a 30-year-old wide receiver.
Yeah.
30, like I'm not trading it for Devontae Adams. I'm not giving a first for Devontae, even if he's been great this year, because I know next year his value is going to drop again. So I'm specifically targeting like 24 to 28-year-old running backs who are going to have production for another year after that. Maybe some middle tier wide receivers that are going to maintain value. Those are the kind of guys I'm looking for because I need 2 years of production. I need them to not lose value next year so that if I decide to re-roll that asset, I can get back most of the investment I paid for it and consider it like a rental.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's sort of just the idea of not sacrificing the future for right now, especially because this is not the NFL where the best team wins. You know what I mean? We've said it a million times on this show. The playoffs is so much luck involved over a 3-week sample size. It does not. The best team does not always win. Tags, you just said your 6-8, 6 seed made the final, right? That stuff can happen. Another big thing with why I don't want to move my future first before the season starts, you end up with those teams where you've moved like this year. Okay, I moved my 2026 first. I don't have it. We get to week 8 or 9, and I have had a few injuries. My team's good, but I have maybe a hole or two to fill, and I need to go shopping. And I look, and I don't have anything to shop with besides my 2027 picks. And now I'm like, okay, do I send the pick so far away to help my roster now? You just end up in this vicious cycle of forcing yourself into contention or into contending moves every single year, and the clock will run out. Right? You can't just do that forever.
Don't build your team like the New Orleans Saints.
You can't keep kicking the can down the road. It's eventually the tax man calls, and you gotta pay up, and you will have to rebuild painfully, which is not what we want to ever do. Right?
No, it's not a good feeling.
No, like rebuilds are fun, but not when you have zero value on your roster and you need to tank for 3 years. That's not enjoyable for anybody. So
it's enjoyable for everyone else in your league.
Yeah, exactly. One less team to worry about.
My final point I have is to check your league scoring. So if you're a degenerate like me who has 16 dynasty leagues, a lot of times those details can kind of fall between the cracks. And I do it's almost like auditing my teams. I do an audit before the rookie draft every year and go in and I'll have a sheet of paper. I'll be like, this league, I'll write down any notes I need to keep in mind while I'm drafting. And some things I found this offseason of doing that was I had a league where it had 0.15 points per carry and 0.5 points per first down. So running backs get a boost up. That same league is half PPR, and tight ends get 1.5 points premium. So that league is running backs and tight ends. So what did I do that offseason is I traded Devon Achane because he's split a lot of times as a wide receiver. I traded Achane for essentially the 102 and 106. I got Amarian Hampton and Travion Henderson back. And Hampton's probably going to rival Achane's scoring once he's fully healthy, just by the fact that he's going to get 20 carries a game. So that was one of my leagues. There was a league where quarterbacks only got 4 points per passing touchdown.
What are we doing?
What are we doing?
I have a league like that.
It's 2025.
They get 6 points when they throw it. They should get 6 points in fantasy. It's ridiculous.
And then there's a league where I had 1 point tight end premium instead of a half point premium. Just that half point changes so much. I was looking at the overall scores for that league, and I noted McBride is outscoring the wide receiver 1 by 60 or 70 points by week 12. So I went in that league. I hit up the manager and I was like, "Hey, I've got Puka and Hampton. I want McBride. Like, can we get a deal figured out?" I ended up trading Puka and Hampton for McBride, Fannin, and a 2026 second. And I'm looking at my team, and McBride and Fannin are going to outscore Puka and Hampton the majority of the time. Fannin in that format is scoring the same as a Josh Jacobs, and McBride was outscoring the number one wide receiver in the league by about 60 or 70 points. And I won that league mostly because McBride carried my
It was
team
insane.
and was
Yeah.
a monster. But if I didn't make that deal, I would not have won that league. So it's important to go through and double check your league scoring before the rookie draft, because the rookie draft is where you can pivot your team. That's where you make the moves where, okay, wide receivers aren't as valued in this league, and 10 of the other owners don't realize that. So that can give you an edge and an advantage. So just be willing to pivot your team build based on whatever scoring rules you have in your league. A lot of leagues will be standard, so there's not a huge advantage there. But I mean, we get bored. Sometimes we make wacky leagues, which we'll talk about
Yeah.
because we have some really wacky dynasty leagues that we're in and that we made.
Yeah. Which I really enjoy. I like the wacky formats. I'm not as much of a fan of the crazy scoring settings because you know what? Maybe I'm just lazy, right? Tags is talking about going through and taking sort of a ledger of each league and how he should be valuing players differently. And I mean, it seems like a great way to be able to take advantage of people who just don't pay as much attention. I just think I would just it would give me a headache to try and figure out, okay, this league, the tight ends are great, and this league, the wide receivers suck, and all this stuff. But you're absolutely right that if you are in these leagues with wacky scoring, you need to be aware of it and do your best to take advantage of it.
Yeah, just creates a competitive advantage if you are aware of all the settings for your leagues and how to take advantage of that with your team build.
Absolutely. My last one is also about knowing your league. This is sort of just know how your league operates and be willing to operate yourself differently league to league because of those changes. Okay? This is a thing that I mainly learned in one league because of a startup that I joined last offseason. And unfortunately, just as it happened, this isn't the most active league in the entire world. A lot of people just didn't even trade during the startup. My draft didn't go incredibly. I really like to be able to move up and down and sort of build my team how I want to. That wasn't really an option here because a lot of people weren't moving. And so I was relying on Mixon and Kamara as vet running backs to help me compete out of the gate. We did this startup in like January of last season. Obviously, that went terribly. I think Xavier Worthy was my wide receiver one as well. I took him in like the 5th or 6th round of the startup. Basically, through 3 weeks, I knew my team had absolutely no juice. For 4 to 5 weeks, I tried to sell off all the contending pieces that I had. I had Travis Kelce, Alvin Kamara, Jalen Warren, Ramondre Stevenson, who was good before like Travion was breaking out. I had Aaron Rodgers and Joe Flacco, both vet quarterbacks that were useless to me because I was just trying to tank. So these are not insanely desirable pieces, but we both know that in any active league where there's like 8+ teams that are trying to go for it, you should have no issue getting these types of names off your roster, right? It shouldn't be a problem. I must have sent out 50+ offers over the course of 2 months. Maybe I got 2 deals done. Nobody wanted to trade. By week 10, I was like, I've had enough of this. I literally set up a silent auction in this league. I said in the league chat, I was like, hey, everybody, these guys are all on the block. By X date and X time, whatever it was, all of these players will be off my roster. The best offer wins.
Yeah, because a lot of times, like, sometimes dropping a player is probably more valuable to your team because it increases your pick. So it's like, what's more valuable is getting a 3rd round pick for Kenneth Gainwell or just dropping him and moving your pick from the 105 to 104. So
Yeah.
the silent auction makes a ton of sense because it's like, well, if I don't have any bidders, I'll just drop them.
I was literally looking at Joe Flacco and I was like, this guy is scoring like 30 points every week and I'm not going to get the 101. And I have no use for him. So I sold. I ended up selling. No, I didn't have to drop anybody. I ended up getting a good enough offer for everybody. And what I did was I sort of kept in the league chat, basically, I kept a record of who had the best offer. I didn't say what the offer was, but I'd be like, okay, this guy has the best offer for Jalen Warren. If somebody wants to try and beat it, go right ahead. And so I feel like I ended up selling these guys for less value than what I would have thought is fair, right? And I feel like a lot of managers would just say, I think Joe Flacco is worth a second round pick, and if I don't get that, then I'm not selling him. Which is just a terrible way to play it, because if you're rebuilding, Joe Flacco is absolutely useless to you, and like Tech said, he's only going to hurt you because he's going to increase your max points for it.
Actively hurting your team.
Yeah.
So even just getting rid of him, it's like if you're only going to get a third, if you can't even get a second for him, it's like, well, you might as well take a third or just straight out drop him because he's actively hindering your team from getting a top pick.
Yeah, and like you could see, like for example, like I saw Davis Mills get traded in another league for a third when he was starting those games when Stroud was hurt. I sold him for this league for a fourth, even though I should have been able to get a third. That fourth is more valuable to me than having Davis Mills on my roster.
Sure.
Right? So in this specific league, the best thing for me to do was just to sell at whatever the league valued them at, even if it was a lot lower than what I would pay as a contender, right? So this one's just about be willing to change how you operate depending on how the rest of your league operates, right? You can't just be the exact same everywhere because you'll end up with the 103 instead of the 101 because you didn't sell Joe Flacco for a fourth or whatever it was, right? So all about just knowing your league and operating within the tendencies of that league. And that goes right into what Tag said with the scoring format. It's the same thing, right? Don't value everybody the exact same in a league with a 2-point PPR for tight ends versus a league with 1. Take advantage of those differences. And in this case, I took advantage of the fact that nobody was going to pay market price for any of these guys. And I ended up with the 101.
And to tag on your silent auction thing, another way to do it is that I found incredibly useful. It's just like be upfront with your prices. Say, hey, I have like you can go into the league settings, go to add note to player, add a note that says any second for this player. It makes it so much easier. Like people are more likely to trade when they're like, oh, we don't have to do the song and dance. Like, oh, I think this player's worth this. I think he's worth this. Just be upfront with your pricing. Make it easy to deal with because one, teams are going to like you a lot more. They're going to work out deals with you more because you're more flexible.
Stick by it,
and
by the way.
If you value that player, you know getting that a second for that player, you're going to be happy with. Don't be like, I'm going to try to get a late first because I can try to fleece this guy. Like, stick with your values, and it's just good for the health of a league to just be upfront with that and cut out all the negotiating crap because there was a league where I just put it like set the note for all my players. I'm like any second for this guy, a late first for this guy, a third for this guy. So players can go shopping. They can go window shopping at a glance and be like,
it should be simple.
Third,
it doesn't need
that.
like it doesn't need to be this super difficult thing where you go directly and target a contending manager and say, okay, who do you want? Right? Or offer him. Like just make the whole league aware. And it also creates a demand, right? Because it's like, okay, I gotta try and do this before somebody else does, who's also trying to compete for a championship.
Yeah, it's just good for the overall health of the league. And like,
if somebody posts like Tag just said, this is like buy this guy for a second, don't send a 2028 second. Don't.
But I did
because
that. I wanted Keenan Allen. Okay, I didn't have a 2026 second. Why am I being targeted right now?
No, honestly,
I
when
wanted
said
to
that,
send you a 2026. I just
didn't
didn't have
even remember.
one.
When I said that, I didn't even remember the fact that you did that. That was fine. The one that annoys me is when people do that when they have a 2026, when they're like, "Well, you said any second," and I was like, "I don't want to wait 3 years for it."
Yeah,
Let's use some
whenever
common
that
sense
happens,
here.
I'm just like, okay, let me wait a day and see if someone will offer an earlier second.
Yes, that's fair.
But give him at least give him like a timeline. Like, I'll consider it, but given the fact that it's 3 years away, I feel like I have the right to just sit and not instant accept just to see if I can get a current one.
Absolutely.
All I'm saying is I didn't have a 2026 second. Okay.
I completely forgot that
I
happened.
said the
swear
best
I
thing
wasn't
I
even
could.
trying to. I wasn't even trying to bring that up. That's so funny.
I just wanted Keenan.
It's a good. Did you end up getting him? I don't think you did.
No.
Good thing, because he sucked.
You dodged that
After
bullet.
that.
Yeah. Someone
really
outbid
did.
me with a 2026 second, and I was like,
Look at me go. 2026
That's
second
fair.
for Keenan Allen. What a deal. Just making moves, man.
making moves. But yeah, I think all this stuff is. Do you have any more?
No, that was all I had.
We're fully learned. We are smarter after this year.
I think I need to loosen my hat because my
brain
head
is getting too big,
my
yeah.
brain grew 3 sizes during this episode.
So what's our?
It's like the Grinch for fantasy football.
I was gonna say that, but I didn't know how to transition it to brain instead of heart. So
Yeah.
you beat me to it.
Yeah. My brain wasn't small before though. Let's not get it twisted.
So now I have the brain power of a grown man and a tiny baby. Just slightly smarter than I was before.
So that will be all for our 2025 learnings. Hopefully we don't forget all of this stuff. We may.
Write it down.
Write it down.
That's what I do. I have little sticky notes that are just like, hey.
I got a whiteboard I
this.
need to put up and just write down. Don't believe in Justin Fields. It's gonna be the Bart Simpson meme.
Just
Don't believe in Justin Fields. Don't believe in Justin Fields. Next week we're doing something fun. We're gonna do a Dynasty startup mock.
Let's go.
That's the plan right now. We're gonna get some people into a Dynasty startup mock, and then Tags and I are each gonna build our own teams. I don't think we'll do any trades just because that'll take way too long.
Not yet.
But
maybe
we'll just
closer to the rookie draft.
Yeah, exactly. But we'll just talk about sort of our process of building a team through a startup draft.
And I think it's important to do it too with actual humans, because I see a
Yes.
lot of mock drafts and it's like has sleeper auto pick and it's just not accurate. So we're going to try to get 10 of our closest dynasty buds and get a little group together, do a little mock draft. And I think it'll be really interesting to see kind of where player values are at the end of this year.
Exactly. And then we'll basically have the draft done when we start the episode, and we'll just go through the picks, who was taken, that kind of thing. So that should be a lot of fun. I'm excited for that. Other than that, thanks you everybody for listening. As always, hit the like, subscribe, check us out on Spotify and Apple as well. Tags, a lot of pods are getting moved to Netflix. So I just want to tell everybody, don't worry. We're going to be on YouTube still. Okay?
Yeah,
we're not selling out for Netflix.
We're negotiating with Netflix.
They tried.
Their people are talking to our people. But
we said we can't do that to the people. No. This pod is great because it's not behind a paywall.
The pod of the people.
Exactly.
No one's buying our loyalty unless they want to.
We won't do that to you guys.
Our emails, you send us a message because
we will sell our loyalty.
We'll never sell our loyalty unless they really want it. In which case, we're open to negotiating.
It's like my dynasty teams. Everybody is available for the right price.
That's
right. You
right.
can buy me. Yeah. Thank you everybody for listening. We will catch you all next week.
Later.